and there are designs you can do and games you can build, etc. So what I used to do there was, let's say if a builder is constructing a home, then I'll help him with writing the automation scripts for the home. So if someone is building a game, then I write the scripts for the game so that the game works, etc. So yeah, I did that for about 4 years, and the way we earn money in Second Life is through a closed loop currency called Linden dollars, and it's about 250 Linden dollars is about $1 American, and the way we eventually get that money to India, because I live in India, is through PayPal. So the money, as soon as it hits PayPal, we lose like 3.9%. That was their standard transaction fees. And now they also have an opportunity to convert remaining American dollars into Indian rupees. And so they used to charge another 3% as conversion fees. So yeah, that was about 7% of money being siphoned away month on month every time I tried to withdraw. And that happened for about 4 years, and it really started hurting. There's like a lot of money being siphoned away for just moving of the numbers, just everything happening online. And I was looking at what else better systems exist for transferring the money from one country to one country without undergoing such kind of huge money loss. And that made me stumble upon Bitcoin in 2012. So, and then I was looking at what exactly is happening in Bitcoin space in India. So I got to know about a meetup happening in Bangalore in the same weekend. So when I went there, that's where I've actually met the rest of the co-founders for Unocoin. But at that point of time, the meetup was just like, okay, everyone was coming, everyone was talking about Bitcoin, and that's pretty much it. And if you see the year 2013, the price of Bitcoin has gone up from the price of about $16.
$130. $16.
Yeah, 16. Yeah, January 1st, 2013 was $16, and it went up to 1,050 by December, right? So, and the way the price increased also made more and more people coming into that particular meetup. And there were meetups which was happening every week where we had 150 people coming there. It was like a conference by itself, even though we were just making it like calling it like a meetup. And while everyone could talk great things about Bitcoin and the technology behind it, etc., people didn't really have any way to put their hands on Bitcoin. So the country like United States had Coinbase, and then the Japan had Mt. Gox, and Europe had Bitstamp, but nothing in India. So people started bringing some money in their pocket and duffel bags, thinking someone else who can come for the meetup will have some Bitcoin to spare and they can exchange. And we felt that it's very unsafe way of doing a transaction, and we also thought that to be a business opportunity to create a platform through which people can safely buy and sell Bitcoin. Yeah, that pretty much has given rise to Unocoin. So we started Unocoin in 2013. I had the bunch of like programmers who were already working with me from the previous business, so I could just pull that together in just 3 months. So initially it was just buy and sell platform, and then we gradually introduced merchant gateway for online merchants to start accepting Bitcoin as mode of payment. And then we introduced POS application for mobile phones that can be used for brick and mortar physical stores to accept Bitcoin against the invoices from their customers. And then to fight with the volatility of the Bitcoin, especially for Indians, because that is the biggest concern for India about what if they invest 10,000 rupees and in a week the price goes to 6,000, right? So it was a kind of very valid and scary concern. So we introduced something called systematic buying plan, through which people can buy Bitcoin in smaller pieces of 50 rupees or 100 rupees or up to 50,000 rupees. So they buy it every month or every day or every week as per their preference, so that the cost of Bitcoin gets averaged over a period of time. Okay, so then like how I was a freelancer at one point of time, and then I was struggling to get money to India with as much less fees as possible. I identified there are so many thousands of people like that in India. So, and while we approached them, a lot of them converted their mode of payment to Bitcoin, but the time at which they get the remittance of Bitcoin from US or any other country, it will be like a midnight for them. So then they used to lose their sleep here. So then they approached us saying, "Can you offer some solution, because we want to sleep as well?" So then we introduced something called auto sell feature, where these customers or these freelancers can generate a unique address, and if any Bitcoin hits that address, instantly the price gets locked and sold. And by that time, with another 2 hours, they will see the money in their bank account. So eventually, what this meant was, when the freelancer just wakes up, on let's say if he is getting paid on first of every month, by the time he wakes up on first of every on first probably has the money in his bank account with just 1% as his fees instead of 7%, and then going through about 5-6 days of delay. So yeah, this pretty much helped him, and I think we raised about 2-3 rounds of funding in between. So first round was $250,000 from Digital Currency Group, Barry Silver's Digital Currency Group, and then we went through the incubation from Boost.vc, and then we raised our second round of huge funding of $2 billion in 2016. That was led by Bloom Ventures. Now we are looking at raising the third round, but we're still in the talks. So that's where it is right now. And I think initially to talk about Bitcoin itself is very complicated. I needed like 10 minutes to explain what is Bitcoin, and today I need like 15 seconds because the media has done a good enough job to keep on telling the same thing again and again about. It doesn't matter whether they're telling good thing about Bitcoin or bad thing about Bitcoin. At least people know what is Bitcoin, right? So now I can simply say that we provide trading platform for Bitcoin. If I had said the same thing in 2014, people had like zero clue, right? So with that kind of confusion, I didn't want to introduce exchange and calling it as a bid order, ask order. Then there is a trees you have to read and the trading charts you have to analyze such things. So that was already too complicated. So that's the reason why initially we did not really make it complicated and kept it simple buy and sell buttons. Simple, that's it. And we became the counterparty for every trade that was happening. But in 2017, we felt like, there is a altcoin markets that were booming. People were becoming familiar with exchange operations, etc. So that made us to introduce more coins and the exchange platform as well for our customers. And in 2018, while everything was going good, like everything was like a dream run. I think in April 2018, RBI came up with a notice saying the bank should stop supporting the cryptocurrency exchanges and any businesses and customers by providing the bank accounts. That had to be fought at the Supreme Court for about 22 months, during which we had to undergo about 2 rounds of downsizing our team and struggled hard to stay alive. And just last month, we got the verdict that we were right and they were wrong. And now that we have access back to our bank accounts, the transactions have resumed, and we already have more than 500 customers every day signing up on our platform to take to the next things. So I think ours is one of the industries, at least in India, who are happy in the month of March and April than what we were in January and February. Why like to anyone I speak, they kind of are like shivering because of the 2 months of downturn or downtrend. Then I'm just assuming how we sustained for 2 years, right? So yeah, this is like a happy dance for us, in fact. And now people are more in homes. They probably will start looking at trading opportunities, and the Bitcoin should not escape that. So
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. That's a lovely, detailed, well put story, Sathvik. I'll quickly bring in Abhyodoy. Abhyodoy, a quick story. Why you're doing what you're doing. What excites you, what keeps you going.
Okay, sure. So actually, we started with a fundamental thing that was the catch 22. So what we felt is most people are not using crypto just because most business don't use crypto, right? And it's just the reverse way also, because most business does not use crypto because there are very less people who are actually using Bitcoin or any other crypto, right? So that is the fundamental point we have seen, and we thought let's try to actually break that catch. So that's why actually we thought of Ecoin, and we started it around February 17 or 18, I guess. So yeah, so what we thought is let's start with the mass adoption first, right? So that was the basic idea behind Ecoin. So what we thought is people always love something for nothing. So that was the fundamental idea, and where we thought also to we are seeing so much problem while it comes to Bitcoin, what we are seeing is there you need to be tech savvy, or you need to have some fundamental knowledge about technology. Whereas the other coins were coming in where there are some other catch, traditional airdrop, it was going good, but there are also some catches there, you can't target millions of people quickly. So how can you touch actually the range of billions, right? That actually Facebook or some good startups actually have. They're giants actually now. So that's where actually Ecoin thought that, okay, let's give something for nothing and let's break the catch of airdrop. So what we thought to put AI here, and we actually developed the AI-based email-based actually proxy identity service. And we have made also one fraud detection system through which we can actually at least 70% of area we can actually catch what is the main email ID of one person. So this way we give them some airdrop, and there is various price protection system also available so that there is not dumping and the end of ecoin. So like this way we started, and so far we have gathered 2.6 million users as we told, and we are making some good partnership as well. Like we recently made a strategic partnership with Telos. We are moving to Telos now. Along with that, some more merchants, and this way it's going on.
Yeah. So Abhyodoy, I had an interesting conversation with a friend from the Telos team. So
Okay.
when they saw your face on the poster, they reached out to me saying that he's an entrepreneur from our ecosystem, and great to see people coming from that ecosystem. So I don't know if you know Tanish from that ecosystem, but yeah.
Uh, yeah, actually, I know, but I didn't talk to him directly. But yeah, we are making good partnership actually, and not only like tell us it is a good strategical move actually. But along with that, so many actually blockchain-based project who are actually seeing interest to work with ecoin. So we are basically we try to work as a bridge, so between the mass adoption and to all the blockchain projects like that.
Sure. Sure. Thank you, Abhyodoy, for sharing that. So quickly, I lead initiatives at Blockchain India and Blocumen Studios, both ecosystem organizations going after the idea of enabling mass adoption of Web 3.0, as well as blockchain-based applications. Since 2017, our focus primarily was on blockchain beyond Bitcoin. 2018 was when we realized, a lot of things that happen in the blockchain ecosystem, personally we believe cannot reach their maximum output without crypto being linked to it. And in many cases I think the main value proposition is decentralization. So being a big believer of decentralization being important for societal evolution, for tackling the menaces that exist in current centralized ecosystems, we realized that we should start something to do with building up this ecosystem in India. And that's what we've been working at both the organizations. So today's panel discussion is around, all of us and our curiosity around what's going to happen to crypto after COVID-19, the dust settles, right? We have definitely seen crypto, somehow surviving the last winter, and now this black swan event, is sort of touted as something that will bring in a global economic recession. And I'd like to, ask Abhishek and Sathvik both to come in and share what they think, is up for crypto in these times.
Yeah, so I think, Sathvik, if you don't mind, I can start and you probably can, I guess, give more light on from the crypto standards. But I think you're absolutely right. Actually, I think we had a dead winter all 2018 and most of 2019 as well. I think this, if anything, I will call it as a triple whammy on the crypto market. Number one is that the exposure of the correlation between Bitcoin and the traditional markets that I think is exposed from the March 12th event of Bitcoin dropping with the equity. That just shows that Bitcoin has sort of become more from a decentralized agenda to a financial instrument. Number one. Number two, I think because of this entire liquidity crunch in the market, because of the equity market going down and people pulling off liquidity from the market for margin calls or any other purpose, the idea is Bitcoin took the hit in some way. So the liquidity crunch that will continue to happen over the next foreseeable future. And third, I think the impending recession, which was really what we were hoping that will happen in 12 to 24 months, it sort of has been expedited by this entire event. So I think there are three causes of concern that we have to worry about. However, Like I said, I'm a big believer in crypto, big believer in decentralization, big believer in Bitcoin as a foundation of this entire system. I think if you look at it, it has great economics. I think it is now more institutional money coming in. There is still a lot of trust that needs to be built in institutions, but it's fundamentally a good time to look at Bitcoin as a financial asset as well. However, like the impending problems are continuing to loom for the foreseeable future. So, from an impact perspective, I think it's definitely and certainly there is a impact that we already had, and then it will continue to sustain. But I'll let Sathvik sort of add more color.
Sure, yeah. So for us, the winter lasted for about 22 months. So from April 2018 to March 2020, right? And just that while we were thinking, we got lucky enough to get the verdict in the first week of March. But that's pretty much also the time when the panic regarding the pandemic was kind of covering pretty much every known country, and it was still not yet serious in India, but it was very well known fact that it could get serious in a week or two. And on the other side, if we see the basics of the basic pillars of the cryptocurrency, like why it was even created, etc. Right? So then we understand how the inflation is supposed to be fought with the limited availability of the tokens or the Bitcoin, and how the properties of Bitcoin kind of should help over a long term than a centralized system like Federal Bank, Reserve Bank of India, etc. Right. So if those fundamentals have continued to be strong, I think if we didn't have the pandemic, we would have more seen the clear effect of how the recession or the downtrend in the economy would have played the role in either decreasing the price of Bitcoin or decreasing the price of Bitcoin, etc. But because again here two things are happening at once, where the pandemic made people more panic than trying to understand what exactly is happening, and that kind of panic that we have seen in the second and third week of March. It does not matter what instrument or what investment people were talking about. They just wanted to have, they prefer to have cash in their hand and just exit their positions, right? So when that kind of rush happens, it need not be Bitcoin, like nothing survives, right? So there were so many circuit breakers for equity markets in India in that particular week, and it has to be restarted so many times. But on the other side, if we have continued to have the fundamentals strong, which I believe to be because of the decentralization that already exists. It is not completely decentralized, but it's kind of significantly decentralized, at least decentralized than anything else we can think of, right? So because of which I think it should work like digital gold over a long term if the economic downtrend continues and if the recession really hits. So we will have to see. This is the first time where this kind of challenges are being faced by the crypto industry. So how it performs, how it fares is yet to be seen.
Sure. So interestingly, I think everybody is looking at how it's super challenging, the environment for all of us, right? But the numbers, if you see, if you compare how the value of INR has come down from 71.32 on 1st of Jan, right, to about 76.46 right now as we're talking. Bitcoin has almost about retained its original value of 7,200 USD, as comparing from 1st of Jan to now, right?
Sure.
India's total market cap has come down by about 24%. If you look at publicly listed companies, crypto market cap has increased by 3%, right? These are some of the facts, and some would say that the dream of crypto, being the one of global decentralized economy and a strong one of that, is also a possibility. Would you agree, Sathvik?
No, I didn't understand the last piece. What was the question again?
So the idea there is that we're seeing positive outcomes as well, right? We're somehow seeing the resilience of Bitcoin
Sure.
in its own way, and the whole market also has sort of. I know the market cap is fairly very low as compared to the current ways of the world, the centralized ways. But I mean, we're definitely seeing an early, realization of the dream of global decentralized economy. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think, see, as of now, I was just reading few articles where it said the number of addresses which has more than 1000 BTC have continued to increase, and it is at like all-time high. So, which means people are accumulating Bitcoins. The big investors and the one with deep pockets or the hedge funds are accumulating Bitcoin because there is a concept called halving that is happening next month, probably by 5th or 6th of May. So where the rewards that is being pumped into the system will go down from 12.5 Bitcoin every 10 minutes to just 6.25 every 10 minutes. So and if we see the last three such halving events, it's very evident that after the halving, within about 6 to 9 months, there has been a huge surge in the price of Bitcoin, and probably that will be the reason why such a huge accumulation is happening. And for such accumulation not to happen, the industry should really grow leaps and bounds, maybe 100x of what it is right now, so that it is not so simple. See, right now today, why the accumulation of gold and then manipulating the market is not easily possible is the market cap of gold is in trillions and trillions of dollars, right? So, but if it comes to crypto, someone with deep pockets would easily manipulate the markets and try to make it swing in a particular direction. So probably, but if I have to compare the first halving, which was in 2012, the second halving, which was in 2016, uh, that kind of accumulation have not happened because it is not as cheap as how it used to be in the previous two halving. But I think over the next couple of halvings, which will be about 8 to 12 years duration, if the market cap continues to increase the way everyone is predicting, then it becomes much more tougher for limited number of people to try to make the market swing in one direction. And I think that is when the true decentralization and power of decentralization will get manifested.
Sure. Would you like to add something, Abhyodoy, Abhishek, to this?
Yeah, actually, Sathvik was talking something like interesting. So when it comes to gold, right? So even gold price is coming down. So what I would say is, like, the world economy is getting a huge hit after the coronavirus, right? So the economy is bouncing up, but the trend is for a general slowdown for sure. So along with that, like people are actually being frightened. Like at the very first scenario, what is happening? People is trying to get more cash into their hands. But as soon as time passes by, so what will happen? Like devaluation is coming. It's not very sure, as you are already giving the example, right? So what will happen after that? People will obviously like the most of the chances to somehow trust on the decentralization. But yeah, it's not very much sure how it will happen. But yeah, the chance is for that, for definitely, because it's definitely like that decentralization will help basically to make it more manageable and more stable.
Sure. So, Abhyodoy, how would you see as a startup who's in its early stages of, its token offering at this moment? Do you think the idea of mass adoption is as easily realizable? There are two factors before you jump in. One is obviously that we are facing threat to real life, right? We're not able to conduct all of our activities, right? Which is on one hand a challenge, and everybody is now sort of doing their daily chores, and a lot of time goes to that, and away from our economic work that we're generally caught up in. But on the other hand, this is also a way wherein everybody is being pushed towards activities that are natively digital, right? So for example, a Ludo, I remember playing. So every day I have around in the evening I have a request from one or the other friend to play Ludo King. I remember it as a board game, and completely everything is gone digital, to the point that my family itself plays digitally, even when we have a physical board in our homes. So I mean, how do you see that impacting your token offering and goals of mass adoption?
Okay, so mass adoption is actually a too big word, because though I was talking about my success, right? Like actually you can success, but even all the like other coins and all the tokens who are getting a huge success, but still it's not like cannot be called as mass adoption, because mass adoption when you are talking, so it's should be like in billions. Like Facebook now has billions of users, but we don't have it for very sure, right? So it cannot be called as mass adoption totally, but yeah, the chances are now getting higher, because we are actually getting the chance to actually let people know how it works. So a proper like time to make people educated about how blockchain works, how cryptocurrency works. They can. It's a good time to understand for them. So it's a good time to understand the scope of decentralization rather than centralized things. So all the scope are coming. So if we utilize it well, being a like crypto believer, it's a good chance and it's a high time to push it and also to make use of it, like tokenization, and then all the like how it should circulate and how it should merchandise. All things can happen periodically and over time. Obviously, time will say.
Sure, I love the positivity in it. Abhishek, I would love to hear from you on what do you think are the challenges you're going to see in the immediate future with some of your clients at Nucleus Vision, and the how things. And I would love to also know about how things are getting realized, because you're definitely working on one of the most cutting edge of products, not just in India but all across the globe, right? So oh, and a quick update on what's happening on that front, and then how do you see challenges bothering you and your team with your goals?
So I think the times are definitely interesting to everybody, and I think the challenge here is to think out of the box, and how do you use what you have, and can you adapt to this new environment? Because pretty much everything is virtual. Look at us. I mean, we are. Yeah, this conversation would have been in person otherwise, right? Everything is going virtual. Schools are going virtual. Education virtual. Health virtual. Food. Mostly people are ordering home. So I think given that, the idea is how to really adapt. And frankly speaking, I think we are building a technology that takes years of R&D, and we have been in almost 4 years under R&D, and finally we're getting to market, doing a technology taking out to the market. We signed some of the premier names in the industry partners, and expanded deployed our technology around 6 cities already. Now, the one way to we saw the challenges, like you called out, is typically working from home has been a new environment, to cope up with, the new format of operations is new. Number one. Number two, I think because most of our customers are going through a lockdown, so there is literally a limited that we have to work with. So some of our field operations obviously have gotten impacted. Number three, I think, is mostly to do with how do we think out of the box for our solution. And one of the things that we are doing is now the technology we have built for the retail environment, where we get customer analytics. Now we are using and building this technology with some of the very large players in the industry to build a COVID contact tracing solution for the government.
Wow.
So using Nucleus Vision sensors to identify people who are infected and non-infected in the crowded places where we have our sensors already, developing intelligence to make sure we have a pandemic health monitoring system. So now that solution is, for example, a creative way of using our technology, where we will make all the enterprises work environments basically green zones. So in the future, I mean, we all think that this is a one-time instance. Our understanding is coronavirus is not a one-time instance. This is going to be something. About pandemic is not going to be one-time instance in the future. So we are basically building a pandemic health monitoring system for the countries. Pitching. We're working with the government in India. And few other global governments to deploy this technology in all the workplaces to make those work zones safe for employees, and make it visible to the governments to take action if there is a threat. So again, like I said, I think the biggest challenge is to think out of the box, adapt to the environment, and grow, still continue growing. Yeah.
Wow, that's an interesting application of the technology, Abhishek. And I could not have probably thought of such a drastic and creative implementation of something that was completely in the other realm, but sort of tipping, sort of pivoting it from its kind of tip, and now creating an impact that was probably unrealizable if you thought if you weren't in this direction, probably.
The only thing I'll add is this is something that was a need of the hour. We thought we wanted to make a contribution to COVID-19, risk, but it seemed like it's also a business opportunity. So it's sort of like a necessity plus innovation coming together. And in our original business, I think we are doing extremely good. Our performance metrics are 3x of any industry benchmark. Our revenues, quite frankly, are almost our pricing is 3 times the pricing of some of the leading industry marketing solutions. Our customer adoption rates are almost in 3x 4x range of any of the industry solutions out there, whether it's click-through rates, conversion rates, or even price we charge to the customers. So I think the original solution is doing. We are already overwhelmed with that, but I think right now COVID-19 is a good problem to have, and we are making sure we are doing our best to solve it.
Well, yeah. So a good problem to have from a crypto entrepreneur's mindset is amazing to hear. I think we've sort of been used to these difficult times, and I think our core has that way become positive in itself. So I think we have a question. We'll take that before we get on to the next topic of the discussion. So one of our participants. So we have to be cognizant of the fact that some of these guys are aspiring entrepreneurs from the Draper Startup House ecosystem. And so they're very basic in their knowledge about the ecosystem. But the question here is about the nature of blockchain itself needing to be a single immutable source of truth. So what are your thoughts on public versus private blockchains? Which one are you a fan of and why? I'll let everyone answer this.
I'll let Sathvik take a stab, or you guys want to go ahead?
Yeah. Okay. See, the basic advantage that we get from using blockchain than any traditional centralized database is that it is a decentralized in nature, right? So there are so many people involved in such a way that one person alone cannot do the changes to the already timestamped transactions or any records that is already present on the blockchain. But now, the moment we say it to be private blockchain, probably it just means that the people who can have access to the data on the blockchain is a closed set of clients. So, and then again, it comes down to the fact that if these clients are not trusting each other already, then I don't really see why you need the blockchain there at that point of time anyway, right? So if that particular, let's say if there are 4 people or maybe 10 people, what is that blockchain is solving is the trust issues among them. Okay. So no one need to trust someone so completely. So with the limited amount of people or the nodes within the particular ecosystem would make less sense as compared to how, for example, cryptocurrency works. So where the nodes are run by about tens of thousands of people, and as everyone has an incentive to protect the data on the blockchain, no one tries to tamper with it. And even if someone is trying to tamper with it, then they will be just kept out of the system because they tried to tamper and it became evident by doing the wrong signatures and trying to change the data and such. So that is the reason I don't really see the private blockchains to be of great importance. If there is trust issues, right, only then the blockchain work. Private blockchain means already everyone knows each other. So then you don't really need the blockchain. But when it comes to public blockchain as well, there has to be some kind of incentive for people to keep the required data intact and not to do any kind of malicious activity, try to do the unauthorized changes on the blockchain. So due to which it still makes sense to have some kind of token. It could be Ether, it could be Bitcoin or whatever, or maybe private token itself. But there has to be some kind of incentive. So only then I think the real potential of blockchain is seen.
Absolutely. So it's all about the token economics and aligning the right incentives for the whole network, which crypto or blockchain is known for. Apart from, I think, auditability, which is a different, sort of domain of a problem altogether. But again, so before going on to the next question, I'd quickly like to understand, Ajay, how much time do we have uh, with us? Because I guess we started a little bit late. Ajay?
Hey, we still have around 20 minutes, no problem.
20 minutes. Okay. And Abhishek, so Abhishek, Abhyodoy, Sathvik, are we good with having another 20 minutes? Because I originally asked for another 11 minutes. I just want to be cognizant of your time.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Okay. Awesome. So I think I would like to, I think this is relating to, the sort of energy that comes to the space with this being related to investments, the idea that, you could back something early on and, when you see its fruits getting realized, you could make a return on that. So this one definitely falls in the realm of exchanges. And hence, Sathvik, my question to you would be, it's interesting how March 3, a month back, a month or so, a few days back, we definitely saw one of the best decisions coming our way, and I've seen you and some of our other champions hustling, individually and together to sort of challenge the government on its decision and sort of expand their perspectives. So now that that has happened, how are you seeing the times? Because I hear that some of the exchanges have sort of seen about 300 to 400% increase in their sort of functioning. And do you see that continuing over a period of time?
I definitely don't see that kind of increase over a period of time, but there will definitely be a steady increase. So
Sure.
if you see the year like 2015, 16, and 17, it was more organic in nature than trying to, like, we did not see any kind of propelled force, which was extraterrestrial to make it really go bonkers, right? So, but I don't think that could happen now again. But it's definitely true that we lost about 2 years of progress as compared to a lot of other developed countries, and it is good that now we are kind of catching up. So now there is quite a bit of catch up to do. At least it will take another 1 year or so that we kind of come to it could be in the terms of volumes, or it could be in the number of customers, etc. So if we see exchanges like BitMEX or like Bitstamp or exchange of Coinbase, etc. So and Kraken, so they do multiple $billion a day, right? So that kind of volume is definitely not seen in India. Not even a small percentage of that volume is seen in India yet. So if all goes good, probably we will start seeing say another 4 or 6x volume in about 6 months, and then it should grow more steadily from there again. Is what I anticipate. But as far as our company Unocoin is concerned, we did not try to encourage the peer-to-peer trading. So due to which our volumes were close to zero when it comes to the trading activity. So as soon as the Supreme Court verdict did come, and we got access to the bank account, and we just enabled the deposit and withdrawals for our customers in just less than 24 hours since the verdict. Our increase is much more manifold, because it was 0 to anything is infinite number of times increase. So that's what happened to us. But the ones who had encouraged the peer-to-peer or any other kind of trading have seen some 3 to 4x. But 3 to 4x is actually very, very less, because for India, the biggest challenge for Indians is to how to get into the crypto space and get out of crypto space. Okay, so the exchanges in India are the volumes and the spread and the variety of assets that you could get is definitely not at par with the international exchanges like Binance or BitMEX, etc. Right? So due to which 3 or 4 or 5x, even 10x is kind of very less. I think we should have actually seen more. But on the other side, like I said, there are multiple things that is affecting it, like the panic situation due to the pandemic, and then you have economic kind of downturn, etc. So those are all adding up as well. But if we could somehow keep it aside and analyze, it is just it's just whatever we could imagine. That's pretty much it. So there was nothing astronomical yet.
Sure. So are you seeing the overall collective trading volume increased already?
It definitely has, at least if I have to say from the second week of March to second week of April, we definitely see about 2x or 3x increase. And that is to be expected, obviously, right? So, but again, that is not astronomical. Like I said, it is just the natural progression of whatever we could assume 1 month ago as well.
Absolutely. And also just a quick observation from the standpoint that when the Supreme Court, sort of setting aside the circular of banking man happened, there wasn't much price movements from a global standpoint, right? What is to be drawn as an observation from that?
It just means the volume in India was negligible. That's all. The number of people who could impact the price move the price is kind of reachable. But again, if you see in the year 2014, 15, and 16, there used to be some news which significantly was affecting the price. So, for example, if People's Bank of China came up with some kind of say news, then initially in 2015 and 16 we have seen 10% drop in a single window of 30 minutes, right? But if we again see the similar news happening in 2017, then the drop was only for 3%, and that's only for a few minutes. So I think as the price have continued to increase, it has become more resilient, I think, and more stubborn, and can absorb some kind of news, unless it is manually or through the deals, someone with deep pockets trying to manually move the market. So the cryptocurrency market itself has kind of seen so much of news, and I've understood so much that small news just does not matter. And it was this particular verdict again was of similar thing. So even though we have 17% of population of the entire world, the activity was so less, and given the 2 years of not having anything much, I did not even see like 5% or not even 2% difference in the price because of the verdict. It was just like as if nothing happened.
Absolutely. So interesting how we're sort of seeing these design models coming into actual play, because the whole idea of keeping it directly related to supply and demand was based on the idea that once a lot of people come in and start playing with the market, it will sort of go to the tunes or volumes that individuals will not be able to manipulate the prices, right? And with sort of more adoption happening, we would probably see that happening eventually. And then is the concern of what do the stable coins really bring in? But again, that's a topic for a different conversation. Abhishek, you've been you've aced in a lot of ways, as an entrepreneur, opportunities, and you're continuing to define standards in the way you're approaching things. Alongside, you've also supported a lot of Indian entrepreneurs and the ecosystem in general, because I remember 17 September was it when India saw one of its biggest such conferences in Telangana, and you were definitely a key supporter to that or organizer to that. So what do you think are the opportunities going forward that aspiring entrepreneurs or early stage entrepreneurs in this space should look at?
Yeah, I think are you speaking from blockchain particularly, or is it outside even?
I mean both.
So I think right now anything virtual, because I think the way Corona has changed the entire landscape, everything virtual has merit. Earlier, games, like you said, Ludo, if it was, 6 months earlier, Ludo would not mean anything. And now anything virtual will matter. Games will matter. Chat rooms will matter. Telemedicine, education online. Anything virtual obviously has a huge impact. Online media, entertainment has huge impact. I mean, all the virtual, dreams. If you, from Minecraft to Second Life. In fact, one of Second Life's founder is a very good friend, Sathvik. So I think all of these are now going to become more and more expansive. I mean, a lot of the expansion, a lot of the startups who did not see expansion previously in these spaces will suddenly see a huge expansion in that space. So that's number one. Number two, I think from an opportunity perspective, my 2 cents, I'm still learning, and a lot of good people here to learn from. And I think fundamentally, the idea here is to stay in the game, and, Sathvik, these guys, Unocoin has demonstrated probably more resilience than Bitcoin at the moment. And it's commendable. I mean, honestly, going through the difficult times, and if you talk to any major VC today, from Sequoia Capital to Andreessen Horowitz, everybody says if you survive the storm, then you are an impressive startup by itself. And taking your team, taking your company through that hardship is by far commendable for all founders, and it's a very critical time for all founders to make sure they are looking out for the team, for the growth of the company, and the safety of all the employees. In our company, our major priorities are threefold. One is safety of our employees and their families. Two is the survival of the company, make sure that we get through the storm. We have a clear runway for about 18 to 24 months. And then we want to retain our workforce. Last month we gave a paid holiday to some of our team members, just to make sure that if there is a way to contain our runway and meet all the people. Finally, I think in my opinion, the name of the game is liquidity. I mean, if you can focus on liquidity in the company, which means the way I define liquidity is either you generate profits, either you get investment to secure your runway, or either you cut cost and make sure you manage your cost really, really well. And I would advise all of brother entrepreneurs and brothers and sister entrepreneurs to do the same. The idea is to be in the game and survive the storm. And unfortunately, the big storm is yet to come. I mean, we are still in the early stages of this entire activity, but I wish everybody, all entrepreneurs, success, and anything we can do as friends, would be happy to extend our support.
Absolutely. Abhyodoy, would you like to add to that? Any particular opinions you have?
Actually, it says survival for existence. So as you can see, so where somebody is laughing, someone is crying, because there are certain industry who are actually laughing. Like Zoom is actually seeing a much growth now, and where is if you come to travel, or if it is become a restaurant, they are actually crying. That's the fact. So the fact is here that you have to survive now, and then let's see how it is going to happen, and decide your strategies, manage your cost, and manage everything. And then obviously you have to decide that how to move on, and how to brainstorm all the ideas, and manage everything, because you are here to think, and that's what we should do, right?
So Abhyodoy, I think, so how to move on, a key thing that comes to my mind from it is being a natively digital brand, right? We're all used to companies, which are run, in physical realms, right? But if you see most of these products, and specifically if you see imprints of YC from the very first moments, from taking conversations online, to executing such, highly scaled and still the value being retained for startup school-like activities. What do you think will be a key strategy for you to stay natively digital and, make the best use of these times?
Sorry, the voice was not clear in the meantime. So you are talking about which industry? Can I ask?
So I'm just understanding if you have thought about being natively digital in terms of your own brand, right?
Yeah.
Because the coins definitely are natively digital, but the way you interact with people, there has to be a very physical activity to that. Some of the things that you produce are all done physically, in offices, right? How are you looking to be digitally more relevant or more focused?
Like I will give one example. Like for us, it's not that much applicable, obviously, because we are startup and like we don't have some sort of things. But if you think like I can see that I was a party guy as well. So earlier there was a lot of parties that were happening, and there are no parties at all, right? There are no parties I can go for now. So how they like I was talking to one of my friends. So we had a talk, and he was suggesting what you can do. So I was suggesting if you can think of something and like organize some online events that people may like. You have to definitely brainstorm and come out like some ideas, right? And that will definitely help because you have to survive and you have to change.
So good online virtual meetups or sessions like these could be a great way to sort of kickstart or grow, growth hack your own brands, sort of reach, right?
Yes,
Amazing.
yes, obviously. Yeah.
Amazing. Sathvik, so, your two bits on how you're seeing activities from or interest from investors, because I hear you had a wonderful meeting with Tim Draper when he was in Mumbai. Uh, yeah, could you shed some light on that?
Yeah, he is. I mean, this is not the first meeting I'm having with him.
Obviously.
I have met him maybe like 4 or 5 times till now. But one thing I can see the moment you see him, he's definitely wearing a tie which has Bitcoin symbol on it, right? So every time I haven't seen even a single time where he's not wearing a Bitcoin tie. And I don't know whether he really gets the tie itself printed or he is actually able to purchase it somewhere. And the one that he was wearing when I met him, actually it is the there's a balance that our I mean our law goddess holds in its in its hand. And there on one side you have a lump of gold, and the other side you have Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin is kind of outweighing the gold. It is kind of saying like justice delivered. I don't know if he planned it or it happened to be that way, but he was saying that I want to recognize what happened in India, and I'm wearing this particular tie. But yeah, he has always been one of the biggest advocates for Bitcoin. And if we remember about Silk Road, right? So where the federal government, Fed in I don't know if it is the FBA or Fed, how to tell that, but they are the one who are auctioning the Bitcoin that is seized from Ross, so who was the founder of Silk Road.
Mhm.
And they did it in 3 different stages. And I think the first stage, and obviously people had to bid to buy those Bitcoins. And the first bid, which the first phase, which was for about 30,000 coins, was completely bought out by Tim Draper.
$17 million, $16.9 million,
Something
2013
like that.
again.
And it was a 30,000 Bitcoin, and the price I think was about $600 maybe. That's pretty much it. And it is now like a clean shit Bitcoin, and it's completely official. And it hasn't been more than 5 years since, but the price of Bitcoin is at least 10 times, right? And he has his son, who is Adam Draper, again, lot inclined towards Bitcoin. And nowadays he's equally looking at the virtual reality as well. But I'm very sure his heart beats because of Bitcoin. So that's what it is. It is like, and it is a great opportunity for anyone who could meet that kind of personality. And he has been an investor into various startups, including Coinbase in US. And to us as well, he has invested through Boost in one way, but also he's one of the LPs for Bloom Ventures.
Bloom.
So we have multiple ways in which we are connected to them. So yeah, he was here to learn about the Bitcoin industry as a whole, or the crypto industry as a whole in India. That was one of his agenda items. So I'm glad we could throw some light on about that. And he has considered doing some kind of investments in India in the future. But if you see, till now he hasn't invested in India directly. There has been even a single startup to which it's need not be crypto space, but anything at all, because DFJ, where they do a lot of investments. So I don't know whether they have it as a policy for time being or whatnot, but till now I don't really see them doing direct investments within India. But maybe this will start changing the course because of his belief and his father being one of the very early VCs in India, etc. So it could change, I think. So we'll have to see.
But you would you say then there is an opportunity for Unocoin to start backing some entrepreneurs and be the vehicle in that sense for some crypto startups to come up from India in the
I
future?
definitely wish we had enough money to be able to do that. We pretty much had to it was a very uphill fight. On one side, we don't have the revenue, and on the other side, there is so much of legal expenses that we have to bear to get this fight to the completion. So right now, we are more at the hiring mode and start earning the revenues and such things. So over a period of time, if we have enough reserve of cash through our revenues, I definitely would recommend Unocoin to do that. But if you see, when India didn't have a method for people to buy Bitcoin, it was kind of Unocoin which gave rise to that particular opportunity for
No
India.
doubt about that. No doubt.
Yeah, they don't lose out, right? And in between, when there was no banking channels, we tried to do something called like kiosk machines that went way beyond what we could think of, and we could not take it live. But we always wanted to fix up whatever is wrong, or wherever there is an opportunity, we want to fill that in. So we always worked on that.
I think everything that could go wrong would go wrong is kind of pretty apt if we analyze that scenario. Abhishek, you're very well connected with the VC, the mainstream VCs. How are you seeing interest there? We're just going to wrap this up in 2 minutes. So, any thoughts on that or insights on that?
I think the markets are drying up. I mean, a lot of people are pulling back funds. A lot more, decision-making deliberations happening. People are trying to fund their own portfolio companies first. They don't want them to run out of cash. So I think this investment landscape is going to go through some turmoil in the short term. But there are funds like Index Ventures they raised $2 billion recently. So there are funds who already have capital, funds who are trying to, or who raised new money at the moment, not just in India, globally. The good thing out of this entire crypto space, honestly, is that the investment landscape just became global. So one of the advices I would give to all the founders is just don't think India. I mean, if you're an Indian startup, you can go to a Chinese investor and raise capital. The key to look out for is relevance to the investor. Making sure that they have new capital to invest. It's not that they have deployed. One thing to look out always when you're raising capital is look at when they have raised their last set of money in the cycle. So if they have raised recent money, then you have a better chance of getting capital. And if you are relevant to your mandate and how you can become relevant to their investment mandate, which typically you can see it from their recent investments in the past and easy to find out. But yeah, definitely slow activity, but the good thing is it's global now. So whether you're raising an equity round or a crypto capital, I think you just have to knock enough doors, and I think you will get the capital. I don't think there's short of capital for sure.
Sure. So, as a last point, you definitely have taken out time from your busy schedules, and which means a lot to me. So I'll definitely do whatever I can do as an ecosystem, influencer to help you wherever possible. But the idea is there any ask that you can have directly for the viewers? This just take the spot.
No, I think, I've always taken the same stand. I mean, we are here for long term. Anybody, one other, I would say unsolicited advice would be like, even if it's crypto world or equity world, I think You don't want to do anything short term. I mean, we already saw the implications of doing short term. Playing for long term, positioning for long term is the right thing to do, and making sure that you are setting and anybody who is in the short term and is betting on you for short term, I think it's going to be a hell cry at the moment. So I would say betting for long term, positioning for long term, working for long term and obviously, and we are all here in the short ecosystem of India. I think I always believe that partnering is the better thing to do when you don't have industry support. We will think that crypto has moved on, but we are still in the very nascent stage of
Absolutely.
I think we should extend whatever we can do for each other in whatever capacity possible at the moment. And like I said, I think India is a small community. We are here to stay, think long term, and partner with the right partners to grow, basically.
Okay, so I think one thing that we can definitely help you with is whenever you're looking at some consumer side engagement, share with us some sort of collaterals or links where people can sign up and be early supporters as early adopters, right? And that just would be a token of thanks.
We have deliberately taken a quiet stand, because of some of the legal restrictions we have. But going forward, as things clean up, I think the final verdict from the Supreme Court is yet to come. We are still waiting on, what will happen before we actually could make some interesting announcements. And again, like I said, at that time, come find partners like you to reach out to, all the friends in the community.
Sure, would love that. If something really positive directly going out to the users would be amazing. I think everyone's waiting for this next wave of adoption to kick in.
I'll tell you, just to throw out some numbers. Our community has grown to 700 million people. We have 49 million profiles of the customers. We have identified close to about 2.5 million people. We have communicated with over 500,000 interactions, with the people on the field, giving direct relevant offers. We have seen great, conversion rates. We have generated actual revenue. We're making, we have signed up some really large partners. Unfortunately, like I said, I'm only restricted a little bit more by my legal team to reveal those names. But like I said, I think we have a lot of progress that we have made in the company. We're just making sure we are following the legal guidelines to communicate officially with the community, just to make sure that the Supreme Court verdict comes out, and then we'll be more free to communicate with the community and the partners. So we'll stay in touch shortly, I promise.
Sure, Abhishek. Abhyodoy, a key ask from your side towards the community in exchange for the time you've taken out for us.
Yes, sure. So basically, if anyone who are working on the online and consumer workplace, if they need any help, I'm free to collaborate. And also, it was nice to meet you. So if you find some people who would like to collaborate with Ecoin, and if we somehow can help them, obviously we would love to. And that's all.
Happy to enable early product interactions whenever you're ready for it. The idea is to be as supportive to the startups at this point in time. And I think early support is super necessary, because we've gone back, as Sathvik said, that at least a gap of 2 years is what we have sort of gone back on. And sure. So Sathvik, what would be your ask if we could be in a position to return the favor of you sharing your insights?
Okay, so right now we're actually hiring for developers. So so the tech stack that we use is Laravel, then the MySQL database, and obviously we have apps for Android and iOS. So we are actively looking at hiring, and we'll do so at least for next couple of weeks. So anyone interested would reach out to us at hr@unocoin.com, and we will get back. We're looking at someone who has just at least a couple of years of experience, so that they should have passion towards the crypto industry and have some knowledge, which makes it more easy for us to get them onboarded and share our vision, etc. And I actually have, I mentor multiple startups, including some of them in the crypto space. So right now, even though we are not looking for doing any kind of investments, I definitely, if there are interesting projects, I can help them in connecting to the investors. And I definitely want to see the crypto and blockchain ecosystem grow in India, at least have some kind of impact. Whenever there is, like you say, whenever there is a news, the impact should be visible in the price. If not, the impact never mattered, right? So I hope we can eventually collectively, take the industry to such an extent that India and crypto industry gets recognized with the rest of the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that brings us to the end. I'll just quickly transfer the mic to Ajay, but before that, I'd like to echo thoughts since this is a Draper Startup House organized event, I would like to echo the thoughts of Tim Draper himself, who said, when the world's going to come back, it's not going to be the banks and governments, helping, but crypto. And so, now is the opportunity to kick in. This is the time to hustle and, grab your space in creating value and impact. Right? Ajay, over to you. Your mic is muted. Yeah.
Hey, hi. Thank you, Akshay. First of all, been a great session. Thank you all for all the speakers joining us. I hope people viewing had a great time getting insights on the crypto world from you. So just a little bit about what we are doing at Draper Startup House, right? So for those of you who don't know what we are basically a global chain of co-living spaces centered around the community of entrepreneurs, right? What we're trying to build is get the whole community of entrepreneurs and digital nomads connected in one zone, right? And make sure that wherever you travel across the world, you belong to a community, you belong to a space where you can, talk the right language, right? That's what we're trying to create. And we have some amazing news for you. We have launched something called as a Draper Entrepreneur Network. It's a global entrepreneurial network which is based out of Slack. Anybody can join. I'm just gonna now ping the URL again to everyone who is viewing here. So all about, we call it Den. It's a bit quirky, it's a bit awesome. So based out of Slack, this network will allow you to meet other founders, have authentic conversation, get exclusive access to all the products that we are building out here in Draper to help entrepreneurs, and exciting perks as well. So I will conclude the event and the webinar today. Thank you all for joining us. Tomorrow, we are back again with an amazing webinar at 3 p.m. GMT plus 5:30, that's IST time, which is going to be around how consumer behavior is going to change post-COVID session, and especially in the mobility space. So we have Amit Gupta from Yulu Bikes going to be again tomorrow heading the webinar at 3 p.m. IST. Looking forward to seeing you all again. Have a great night. Have a good Friday. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks for the session.
Everyone.